Today we're having part 2 about the contract for realtors, and we're going to talk about subject to and assumptions of mortgages in the contract.
Subject to transactions are kind of a hot commodity right now. What is a subject to transaction? It's where a buyer comes in, purchases property from a seller, and then the mortgage is not paid off. And then the buyer is promising to continue to pay for the mortgage. And there's a lot of problems with that. If you're getting an offer for $500,000 and it's subject to, you have to figure out how much your seller is walking away with. And a lot of times when I see these contracts, it says the seller's walking away with like $10,000 or $15,000. And then I say, wow, is your seller good with this? Did you talk to them about this? And most of the time the agents say to me, honestly, I have no idea what this contract says, so my seller does not know what it says. I'm glad you told me that. They definitely don't want just $10,000 for their property.
When you get those solar panels or you get those impact windows, they do not make you qualify. They give it to you. They don't care what you got. Like, you could have no equity. They really do give it to you.
The pieces of advice I always give to agents is you're the real estate professional, so don't let your clients who are not the real estate professional dictate and control the transaction. And that starts from the listing side with determining the market value of the property. Right. If you know that this property is only worth $1 million and not 1.5, and you list it at 1.5, you're not going to get any offers anywhere near 1.5.
Welcome to Making Money with Laura Sanders, a name you can trust. With over 20 years of real estate experience and selling over 150 homes a year, Laura Sanders is the #1 RE/MAX agent in the state of Florida for 2021. Join us each week as we discuss how to make money through buying and flipping homes to renting versus selling and everything in between. To join the conversation, call in live 888-994-4995, Studio A.
Hi, welcome to Making Money with Laura Sanders, and I am your host, Laura Sanders. Every week we talk about something that will help you make a little money, save a little money, or maybe just help you navigate this crazy world that we're in. Today we're having part 2 about the contract for realtors, and we're going to talk about subject to, which is definitely a learning topic for me, and assumptions of mortgages in the contract. And this is something that I think that a lot of agents need some training on, and I have with me today Charles Esposito with JK Closings. Welcome, Charles.
Thanks for having me, Laura. So subject to transactions are kind of a hot commodity right now. What is a subject to transaction? It's where a buyer comes in, purchases property from a seller, and then the mortgage is not paid off. And then the buyer is promising to continue to pay for the mortgage.
Okay.
And there's a lot of problems with that. So the reason why this is hot right now is a lot of owners of real estate in Florida have low interest rates on their mortgage. Maybe it's a 3% interest rate, so their monthly payments are pretty low. And so there are buyers that are out there that want to take over that payment and then rent the property out and then make the difference.
Okay.
So what we're seeing is a lot of offers come in. Listing agents send these to me all the time, and they say, take a look at this contract. I'm not familiar with subject to transactions.
And I blow that stuff off.
Yeah, and my client says that they're going to get $100,000, and I start looking at it, and I say, okay, is your client comfortable with the mortgage continuing to be in their name with the possibility of foreclosure and then unable to get a loan on a new property because they have a mortgage in their name? And right away, the listing agent says, no, they're not interested in that. I said, well, that's what subject to is. Because subject to financing. So people
actually close with this?
People.
You actually see this close?
I don't do very many closings like this. Usually they're a violation of the mortgage. If you transfer the property to somebody else without paying off the mortgage, it's usually...
Due on sale clause, right?
Yeah, there are due on sale clauses. What's happening is there's a lot of investors online. You see this on social media, Instagram in particular. They're out there promoting these trainings on how to do subject financing. They're providing literally the same contract. I've seen the exact same contract from different people, and they're buying them from these Instagram influencers, and they're teaching college kids all about subject to. And we're seeing these offers that are written by AI, and the agents can't make heads or tails of them. And then I look up the companies that are submitting these offers, and they're brand new companies. I look at the names of the people that are on the companies, and I might find them on LinkedIn, and a lot of them are college kids, and they're making these offers. And frankly, they're a waste of my time, but I have to at least educate the realtors on them a little bit so that they're not duped by this.
I literally tell my clients, hey, I got this BS offer. I just want to let you know about it, but it's just, you know.
Yeah, we almost never advise anyone to do a subject to
Now, this is totally different than like acquiring somebody's FHA or VA loan.
Yeah, so that's an assumption of the mortgage. That's different.
Now,
an assumption of the mortgage literally means that you are assigning the mortgage to the new buyer, and the buyer is getting approved by the lender and then keeping that mortgage.
The original lender.
The original lender and the original mortgage. And generally, right now, we're only seeing VA loans with that capability. Those are the only loans that we're seeing as being assumable.
Okay, so now, if I have a VA mortgage, now I just went through this with a seller, right? And she refused to let anybody do it. And she did a lot of research. So this is where I feel like people really need to pay attention, right? If I have a VA loan and I say to you, you're the buyer, and I say, okay, I'm going to let you, but you have to be a VA buyer too.
Yes.
You can't assume a VA loan if you're not a VA person.
Generally not.
Right. So you are VA, I'm VA, and I had somebody that wanted to assume my client's VA loan. And my client was like, absolutely not, because it does not alleviate
my
responsibility for paying this loan.
That's not necessarily true.
Okay.
So
couldn't get an answer from Wells Fargo, though.
Yeah, the forms and the contract are supposed to alleviate the seller from that responsibility in terms of they don't have to go through with the transaction if the lender doesn't allow that. But when you do the assumption, if you do the assumption the right way, the seller is supposed to have some sort of novation, which means that they're off the hook. So they don't have to be responsible for the loan anymore. And that's the way it's supposed to happen.
Their entitlement will come back?
Yes.
They'll get their entitlement back.
Yeah, you're acting as if the loan was paid off. And if the transaction is not structured like that, then why would the seller do it?
Exactly. And so this was like a big contention because it was actually a pretty expensive property. And this buyer really wanted it. And I mean, we ended up selling it, but it was such a good offer, but yet it was so confusing.
The big thing, as with any transaction that's financed, the lender has to approve it. And so if the lender, they don't have to approve a VA mortgage, even though VA loans can be assumable, they don't have to approve it. So, you never know whether or not they're going to. And then if they do approve it with conditions like the seller having to, keep it on their credit and still be responsible for it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, there's just no reason. That's
so
almost
if you
like
get
a subject
something like
to a
that,
transaction.
we really need to be contacting you because we need extra verbiage.
Yeah,
in
there
that
are special
contract.
addenda to add to the contract that have to do
There's
with
an
assumption.
addendum in there?
Yeah, if you look in the loan approval section of the contract, section 8, this is the as-is residential contract. Yeah.
Do you speak this stuff in bed at night?
No, but I do teach this contract a lot, so I know a lot about it.
So
it's only 12 pages long, but there's a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah, but there's a lot of 8s and 9s.
So section 8 of the contract has a section for assumption. And so instead of there's cash, there's conventional financing or FHA, VA, and then there's also assumption of the mortgage. Okay. And if you check that box, you need to also include the assumption addendum. And the assumption addendum has further information that you fill out on there as well.
Okay, so then when you're talking about assumption and all these different ways of bringing in other mortgage people to take over your mortgage, it brings another thing to my mind: solar panels.
Solar panels, PACE loans, those types of things.
Now, PACE loans, PACE loans and solar panels. Let's just be clear, and Y-Green are all different. Those are three separate. Entities.
Generally, we're talking generally doing work to your property, and you take out a loan to do that work, that is an actual loan like a mortgage. And when you sell your property, it needs to be paid off.
Right, but they don't tell them that. They lie.
They sort of don't tell them that. So I have solar panels on my house, so I went through this too. I also did impact windows on my house at one point too, so I went through it at that point. When the lenders are speaking to consumers about doing these things, they say that that these loans can be assumed by a buyer. And the key word there is can. They can be assumed.
But they have to qualify where you didn't have to qualify.
They have to qualify, but also
They have
if
to want
the
it.
buyer is purchasing the property with financing, the lender is not going to allow them to assume that loan unless that loan is subordinate to their new loan. Meaning, right now you have the solar panel loan up here, and then the new buyer comes in with their loan, and it's down here. The new loan wants to be up here. And so you need special paperwork from the solar panel company, the lender, to actually do that.
So
and
you're
it's called
telling
a
me
subordination.
the solar panel company, when they put the lien on your property,
Their lien's in first position over new liens that come in. So if you're assuming that loan,
okay, but they're second from the loan.
they're second from the owner's loan. So
Okay.
the owner has a
Okay,
property and they have
Okay.
a loan on their property. Then they get solar panels. So now the solar panel loan is the junior lien. Now
Okay.
when they sell the property, if that lien is not paid off, it's still there, and any new lien comes in junior to that.
And a mortgage company's not gonna do
A lender
that.
is not going to allow that for the new buyer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is complex, and I've gone through this with sellers, and they get
Mm-hmm.
angry with me.
Yeah. So I understand their position. They put these solar panels on the house, but you also should be selling the house at a price that includes the solar panels and the value of the solar panels.
This is
right?
where, now I wish I had our appraiser lady here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because unfortunately, now I don't know where you live, but if you have sales with solar panels, then you can get the value of that solar panel. However, if you live in a neighborhood and you're the first to get those solar panels, guess what? There
No
is no
comps,
value.
right?
There is no value to the solar panels, and they cannot give value to it. Now,
Yeah.
it's value. So now a seller says, well, it's value because I'm saving you money and I'm going to pay it off.
Right. Well, yeah, if they're going to pay it off. So you
Well,
would
they
want
would
to look
have
for
to
a
pay it
cash
off
buyer.
if you can't. Right.
Look for a cash buyer.
Okay, so you're going to look for the needle in the haystack in this market. Now,
Yeah.
listen, back in 2021.
Unfortunately, that's,
So how do you feel about them?
I think that it's not very clear to consumers that if they sell their home, they have to pay off the loan.
But was it clear to you?
Well, it was clear to me because I've been through this quite a few times,
Right.
so I know that. But I think a lot of homeowners, first of all, they don't contemplate that I'm going to sell this property in the next year, 2 years, 3 years.
Right.
When you take a loan out on your property for anything, whether it's solar panels or a mortgage or whatever it is, generally those are for 15, 20, 30 years.
No, it's usually 30 years.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
So if you're selling your home at any point within that time period, you have to pay it off. Otherwise, you don't have clear title.
Right. So I want to come back and talk about that. We'll go to commercial break, but I want to come back and talk about that because a lot of people come to me and ask me about solar panels, and I just have one particular, and I actually had a famous person on one of these TV shows reach out to me and tell me I can make $4,000 or $5,000, and I wasn't willing to do it. So stay tuned. We're going to go to commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about these solar panels and how it subordinates.
At JK Closing Attorneys, we do all of the same things that a title company does, but with the benefits of being a law office. We can help with residential real estate, short sales, commercial real estate, refinances, 1031 exchanges, and FRIPTA withholding.
Contact JK Closing Attorneys today at 954-332-3111. Again, that is 954-332-3111.
Whether you're buying, selling, refinancing, or building your dream home, you have a lot riding on your loan specialist. Max Fish, a top 1% mortgage loan officer in the nation, will give you a same-day qualifying quote. Max Fish is committed to providing his customers with mortgage services that exceed their expectations, ensuring that you make the right choice for you and your family is his ultimate goal. Contact Max Fish today at 954-729-6933 or max.fisch@nwmcorp.net.
You have been watching Making Money with Laura. For more information, contact Laura Sanders at 954-650-0827 or visit her website at theloracell.com. And now back to the show.
Everyone, welcome back to Making Money with Laura Sanders, and I am your host, Laura Sanders. I'm here with Charles Esposito. He is an attorney with JK Closings. We're talking about assuming mortgages, what that looks like. We're talking about these other, I call them garbage contracts personally. That's just my personal opinion. I get stuff emailed to me all day long. People are phishing, and now I guess you're saying this is all written by AI, right?
Some of the emails are definitely
it's
written by
crazy,
AI.
right?
Yeah.
And they're calling. But we're talking also about adding on, assuming people's solar panels or assuming, their impact windows, which I tell my clients that's BS. Like, it's almost impossible to do.
Yeah,
Now, you
it's
said
very difficult.
you have solar panels, but you were saying that in your particular instance, it made sense because...
Yeah. So I put solar panels on my house because I also needed to redo my roof at the same time. It was over 25 years old. It had leaks and things like that. And so we were able to combine the roof and the solar panel job at the same time. And it made sense. My electric bill was creeping up, over $400 a month, and we were not consuming more electricity. And I'm also in the position with a young family, and we know we're going to stay in that house for a pretty long time. At least we anticipate that. So we know we're not going to have to pay off the mortgage on the solar panels for a while, and we're not selling right away.
Right.
So we took all of that into consideration before essentially taking out the loan to put the solar panels on the property. So a lot of people, they're sold the solar panels, the impact windows, whatever, and they say, oh, it increases the value of your property. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. It should, but to your point, well, if there are no comps in your neighborhood, it may not.
Don't be the first person to get solar.
Yeah, exactly.
Or to be the first to sell with solar. I mean...
Exactly. So you have to be careful about those things. Yeah, and if you're anticipating selling your house, why would you put a lot of money into a project like that? It's sort of like when you buy a car. If you buy a new car and you take out a loan on the new car, once you drive it off the lot, you're underwater on that loan. Right. You have to wait several years in order to actually make that back up. It's kind of the same thing with solar panels and any other loans that you take out on your house. Even your mortgage. If you take out a mortgage on your home, it's a 30-year. Most of the payments are interest payments within the first couple of years. They're not principal payments.
Right.
So you might take out a $500,000 mortgage last year, and this year your payoff is like $495,000, even though you've been paying it for over a year.
But let me be very clear, though. When you get those solar panels or you get those impact windows, they do not make you qualify. They give it to you. They don't care what you got. Part. Like, you could have no equity. They really do give it to you.
Yeah, that's correct. There's it's not like getting a home loan. The process for getting qualified for those loans
like buying a car.
Much easier.
It's like buying a car.
It is like
you really don't need to qualify. Nobody's ever turned down.
Higher. Yeah.
Nobody's ever been turned down to buy a car. They've just been given a 20% interest rate.
The car secures the loan.
Right.
The solar panels secure the loan. If you don't pay the loan on the solar panels, they come in and they take the solar panels away.
Oh, really?
They can. Yeah. There's also leasing of solar panels.
But they're still going to probably put it on your credit for the entire amount, right?
Oh, yeah.
Just like you would with a car if you default.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing if your car is repossessed. They can essentially repossess the solar panels.
Yeah. So we've talked about a lot of things. First, we've talked about assumption of mortgages. We've talked about...
Subject to.
Don't
do subject to unless you're very well versed into
and agents, you're going to get that all day long in your emails. Every day. I get it well, I guess if you're me and you get a lot of deals, you get it every day.
Yeah. I think to cap off the subject to conversation too, just so everybody understands, if you're getting an offer for $500,000 and it's subject to, you have to figure out how much your seller is walking away with. And a lot of times when I see these contracts, it says the seller's walking away with like $10,000 or $15,000. And then I say, wow, is your seller good with this? Did you talk to them about this? And most of the time the agents say to me, honestly, I have no idea what this contract says, so my seller does not know what it says. I'm glad you told me that. They definitely don't want just $10,000 for their property.
And you just spent more of Charles's time on...
Yeah, the good thing is because all of these programs are online and these college kids are getting it from wherever, it's pretty much the same contract over and over again.
So you know as soon as you see it.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else that we need to be, because I think times are a little weird right now. Anything else we need to be looking out for?
we didn't really talk about interest rates. They lowered interest rates, half a basis point, and then interest rates are higher on home loans right now. Which is
you're talking about the Fed.
Yeah, the
Fed.
Fed lowered
So everybody
it.
thinks the Fed has to
Yeah.
do with interest rates, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
And you hear this all day long.
Yeah.
And then today somebody said to me, well, I'll think about selling my house after the election.
Yeah, I tend to think that people that are waiting to kind of time the market are spinning their wheels. You don't know whether the market is going to go down. You don't know whether the market's going to go up. I mean, interest rates could go lower, which means that home prices will go higher, which means that there's more competition. So if you're a buyer, why wouldn't you buy now?
Agreed.
From the seller side, the exact opposite may happen. Right now we're seeing houses sit on the market for a really long time. That means that prices are going to go down. So you would rather sell before prices go down. So I always tend to think that right now is the best time to buy and sell real estate, because at some point you're either going to buy something new and make it up on that end, or you're going to refinance your property and make up whatever you think the losses are. Gaming the market
It's very
timing
hard,
the market
yeah.
is very difficult. Nobody tries to do that with stocks. Why would you do that with real estate?
Let me ask you a question. Do you ever look at the pictures online?
Of the properties?
Yeah.
Sometimes I do.
Did you notice, and you tell me if this is just me, and maybe I'm just searching too much, that most of these properties are not updated?
That's
and
right.
I think it has a lot
properties
to
are not
do with
updated.
why we're seeing such a long time on the market.
Yeah, I mean, we generally hear that from listing agents. I've been to open houses, I've been to brokers' opens. So a broker's open is when your realtor invites other brokers or realtors to the property to give their feedback on it.
Right.
And the number one thing I see from feedback all the time is stage the house properly. Get rid of this disgusting, ugly thing that's here, whatever it is, whether it's an old cabinet or, whatever. Sometimes it's repainting or a floor that looks awful. You have to create, I think, the picture for the buyer of what their
And it
the
doesn't
potential
cost a
is,
lot.
And
it was funny. So I was telling somebody the other day, I want to do my own love it or list it, right? Like love your home again.
Yeah.
And, that might create you to want to stay, or that might create you to want to move. But it's just in my mind, I look at houses all day long, and I'm kind of mind blown. And maybe it's because it's the baby boomers' houses that are coming and they just did an update. I don't know. Like, you'll get one house, like the minute a house is like tile, it looks like wood, white kitchen, completely redone, quartz countertops. Like, you're like, people are like, it's gone.
Yeah.
The ones that aren't.
Absolutely. So different neighborhoods and whether or not a property is updated are dictating the time spent on the market and also the price. So there are plenty of people that are listing their property looking to get the high price that their neighbor got, and they're not updated. So I mean, that's an inefficient pricing, and I blame that kind of on the listing agents for not telling their
It's not
clients.
us all the time, though.
Well,
We have to
the
sometimes.
value, but sometimes your clients want it listed at that price no matter what.
And you know what I tell them? We can try it, but I'm very boisterous, and I am very. I speak my mind. People say, if you want to know the truth, ask Laura. I tell them, I just want you to know, I don't mind trying because I want to make sure we're not losing anything.
One of the pieces of advice I always give to agents is you're the real estate professional, so don't let your clients who are not the real estate professional dictate and control the transaction. And that starts from the listing side with determining the market value of the property.
Right.
If you know that this property is only worth $1 million and not 1.5, and you list it at 1.5, you're not going to get any offers anywhere near 1.5.
Right.
And you have to be able to have open and honest and frank discussions with the homeowners. And, either they're going to agree with you or not. And different brokers and agents handle this different ways. A lot of agents will say, fine, go list it for what you want and then come back to me when you want it later. Other agents say, okay, fine, we'll list it, but after this amount of time, if we don't get however many offers, we're lowering it. And then you have them sign a modification agreeing to do that because you actually know what the market value is, And so you could say, well, you don't want to listen to me now, but when you're sitting on the market for 30 days and you don't have any offers, maybe you will listen to me. And sellers have carrying costs. The longer you're on the market without selling the property, the more you're investing in your property. You're making mortgage payments, association payments, tax payments, all of those things accumulate. So you want to sell fast. And sometimes that means a lower purchase price, especially if you haven't updated the property. The market's the market.
And I know we're probably getting ready to run out of time, but I'm just curious, like if you had a seller come to you and say to you, hey, I'm thinking about selling my home, but we're getting ready to come up on Thanksgiving and Christmas. Would you recommend that I wait till the new year, or do you think I should put it on the market now?
Always put it on the market now, because you don't know what the market is going to be like in 3 or 4 months. You know what the market is like right now, and you're still not going to be closing for probably 30 days. We can close in a week or 15 days depending on the different scenarios.
Right.
Usually not with a loan. Lender has to work really quickly. But you don't know what the market is going to be like in a couple of months, and you may find it harder to sell at that point. Also, a lot of people want to close before the end of the year for tax purposes, buyers and sellers. So we are always busier at the end of December than we are in November and October. Always, always, always. We have people that move closing dates
you got to get it done
from the first week of January to the last week of December, and it happens every single year. New Year's Eve, we don't give our staff off. A lot of times we're working late at the office New Year's Eve. It's one of the crazier
Slave
days
driver.
of the year.
What's
Yeah.
a good way to get a hold of you for somebody that needs a great real estate attorney?
Call or text 954-779-5000. We have offices from Miami Beach all the way to Tampa, and we do real estate transactions throughout the state of Florida.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for listening to Making Money with Laura Sanders. Till next time, make it a great night.